The human outpost on Arion 5 always felt like a peaceful dream far away from the noise of the galaxy. A place where the loudest sound was the soft humming of research towers or the wind brushing across the strange blue grass that covered the ground like shimmering waves. A place where children laughed freely, where scientists studied the glowing storms in the upper atmosphere, and where young soldiers trained with quiet hope in their eyes, believing they were part of something safe. Something small, something too unimportant for the galaxy to care about. 300 humans lived there. Families, teachers, farmers, engineers, and a handful of officers who treated the colony not like a base but like a home. No one ever imagined danger. Even pirates avoided the region because there was nothing valuable to steal. To the galaxy, Arion 5 was a dot of dust. To the people living there, it was a simple slice of life under gentle blue skies. But all it took was one night, one sudden, terrifying night, for everything to change forever. It began with a single blip on the radar, one of the orbit sensors catching an object entering the system. The technician monitoring the screen frowned, thinking it was a glitch, because the reading was wrong. Too big, too fast, too silent. Before he could call for confirmation, 3 more blips appeared. Then 7. Then 12. Within seconds, the entire screen turned red. The alarms followed. Loud, violent, merciless. Red lights flashed across every corridor. Doors slammed shut. The peaceful colony turned into a storm of confusion. Officers shouted orders. Parents grabbed their children. Scientists ran toward bunkers. The blue grass outside shook violently as gusts of wind blasted downward from the sky. Not natural wind, but the tremor of engines descending. Then the people heard it. The first sound that told them they were no longer alone, no longer safe. The sound of warships. Silent warships. Fast warships. Hunter warships. No warning message. No communication. No demands. No negotiation. The sky simply ripped open as the black ships arrived. Each one shaped like a blade. Each one coated in matte metal that reflected no starlight, no warmth, no mercy. They came like shadows given life, and they fired without hesitation. The colony shook as the first blast hit the east sector, turning an entire block of research buildings into fire and dust. The ground split open. Walls crumbled. Families were thrown to the floor. The second blast struck the residential dome, shattering it into 1,000 glowing fragments that rained down like deadly glass stars. People screamed as oxygen alarms wailed. Officers tried to direct the evacuation teams, but the black ships fired again and again and again. Arion 5 had defenses, but they were meant for storms, not for slaughter. The automated turrets barely fired before they exploded. The shield generators ignited in a burst of sparks and died. The attackers didn't even slow down. They were not here to threaten. They were here to destroy. In the chaos, a young human girl, only 11, ran through the burning corridor of her home, clutching a recorder in her shaking hands. She had taken it earlier that day to interview colonists for her school project. Now it recorded screaming, explosions, crackling fires, and her own terrified breaths. Her left arm hung limply, broken from when the ceiling collapsed above her. Tears streaked through the ash on her face as she crawled through fallen beams and twisted metal. Every time she heard another blast, she flinched and whimpered, but she kept moving, inch by inch, because she had to reach the emergency beacon. She had to send a signal. She had to tell someone what happened. She had to make sure the galaxy didn't forget them. Outside, the colony burned completely now. Houses crumbled into ash. Research towers fell like dying giants. The sky glowed orange with fire and blue with the strange storms mixing violently above. Bodies lay scattered. Soldiers who tried to fight, parents who shielded their children, scientists who never made it to the bunkers. The attackers moved through the destruction like ghosts, their ships floating slowly across the settlement, scanning for survivors. They found none. They made sure there would be none. And then they left. No victory message. No trophy. No reason. Only silence remained. A silence more painful than any scream. The young girl finally reached the signal station, dragging herself across the floor with one shaking hand while the other held the recorder against her chest. She pushed through the broken doorway, her small body trembling from cold, shock, and exhaustion. Sparks rained from the ceiling as the last backup generator struggled to stay alive. She crawled toward the emergency beacon terminal, her fingers slipping in the dust and blood on the floor. When she finally reached it, she lifted shaking hands and pressed the activation keys. The beacon hummed to life, projecting a dim blue light that flickered like a dying heartbeat. She leaned close to the recorder, her voice fragile, barely a whisper. "This is Arion 5. The outpost. They attacked. Everyone is gone. Please, help." Her voice broke into sobs, but she forced herself to continue. "Mom and Dad. They didn't make it. Please, someone hear me." Then she pressed the button. The message transmitted, and the beacon died. Hours later, deep within the secure chambers of the Terran High Command on Earth, the distress signal arrived. Generals stopped mid-sentence. Officers froze. Screens lit up with shaky footage. Blue flames, collapsed buildings, falling debris. A child's voice gasping through tears. The emblem of the invaders flashed for half a second. Dark metal carved into the shape of a skull-like mask with 3 vertical scars. Someone recognized it immediately. The Varkan Dominion, a species known for cruelty, conquest, and a hatred for weakness. They attacked only when they believed their prey was helpless. And they believed humans were helpless on Arion 5. The room full of high-ranking officers fell silent as the girl's message ended with a soft cry. The silence stretched on for a long, heavy moment. Then something snapped. Not loudly, not violently, quietly, deeply, terrifyingly. A silence filled with cold anger. A silence that meant the universe had changed. Earth had always been patient. Earth had always forgiven. Earth had always tried peace. But Arion 5 had awakened something older, something fierce, something that slept deep within the human heart. Something the galaxy forgot. Rage. Not wild rage. Not loud rage. Silent rage. The kind of rage that made entire empires fall to their knees generations ago. A general stood slowly, his fists clenched, eyes glowing with a cold fire. "Prepare the Terran fleet," he said. "Send word across every shipyard." His voice did not tremble. It did not rise. It was simple, final, deadly. Earth answers now. No officer questioned him. No one hesitated. The room transformed instantly. Screens lit up. Orders raced across the solar system. Engines ignited in the darkness of space. The quiet blue planet that had tried so hard to be peaceful finally remembered why its ancestors once shook the stars. This time, humanity would not wait. This time, humanity would not forgive. This time, the galaxy would learn what happens when you attack a human outpost and leave one little girl alive to tell the tale. Earth had awakened, and the universe was not ready. When the distress signal from Arion 5 finished playing inside the Terran High Command, the silence that settled over the chamber was not the silence of shock. It was the silence of something ancient waking up inside every human officer present, something heavy, something dark, something patient for far too long. And as the flickering image of the injured girl faded from the hologram, every man and woman in that room felt the same weight pressing against their chest. The weight of grief turning into fury. The weight of helplessness turning into resolve. The weight of a nation that had always tried to walk the peaceful path suddenly remembering why their ancestors built fleets capable of turning stars into ash. The generals stood stiffly around the table, their eyes locked on the still image of the outpost ruins, flames rising into the blue sky of Arion 5 like the last cries of a dying world. And no one dared speak because they knew that if they said even one word too soon, it would break the fragile thread holding their rage together. The youngest officer in the room, her voice trembling, whispered, "They killed families, children. They didn't even ask why. They didn't even speak." Her words cracked, and she lowered her head as tears threatened to fall. But the commander of the room placed a hand on her shoulder gently, not to comfort her, but to steady her, because he knew this moment was bigger than grief. This moment would determine the fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. The commander turned to face the room, his calm expression more terrifying than anger. "The Varkan Dominion has made a decision," he said softly. And we will answer that decision. He gestured to the screen where the invader's emblem, a skull-like mask with 3 scars, glowed faintly. They believe humans are weak. They believe we are prey. They believe the galaxy will look away, just like before. His voice hardened. They are wrong. Officers nodded slowly, their jaws clenched, their eyes burning with a cold fire that had not been seen in centuries. One general stepped forward, slamming his fist onto the table, not out of rage, but out of certainty. Activate Protocol Red Horizon, he said. The room froze. Red Horizon had not been used in 400 years. Red Horizon meant humanity was no longer responding with diplomacy. Red Horizon meant Earth acknowledged the attackers not as opponents, but as threats to be erased. Red Horizon meant humanity would move as one. The commander did not hesitate. Approved. Immediately, every screen in the room lit up bright crimson as the ancient Terran War Protocol awakened, sending encrypted orders through secure channels across the solar system. Far on the moon, deep within the cold tunnels of Luna Base, red lights ignited and sirens echoed. In orbit above Earth, the massive drydock rings began to rotate as dormant engines hummed to life. On Mars, dust storms parted as old military bunkers opened like giant steel flowers, revealing hidden weapon silos and shipyards forgotten by most of the public. Across the asteroid belt, mining ships with secret military modifications dropped their tools and turned toward Earth, responding to the emergency call like soldiers answering a parent's voice. Everywhere, across every corner of humanity's reach, the giants of war awakened. The Terran fleet did not rise with loud speeches. It rose in silence, silent like the void, silent like the anger inside every human heart, silent like the calm before a storm that would drown worlds. Engineers ran through corridors. Soldiers strapped into armor. Pilots slid into cockpits with faces made of steel. No one questioned. No one hesitated. Every human trained for years for this moment, the moment Earth would need them. And now Earth did. Back in the high command chamber, the commander turned toward the hologram of the surviving girl. She sat in a medical ship now, wrapped in blankets, her broken arm in a splint, her small face pale and bruised. She stared into the camera with hollow eyes. A child who saw her entire world burn. A child who crawled through death. A child who somehow survived when she shouldn't have. And the commander whispered, "You are not alone. The galaxy will remember what was done to you." He lowered his head for a moment, letting a rare tear fall. Not for weakness, but for promise. Then he faced the generals again. "This is no longer an investigation," he said. "This is justice." A deep hum shook the building as the first Terran dreadnought, Sol's Hammer, powered on. Electricity surged across its surface like lightning trapped in metal skin. Then another dreadnought woke. Then 4 more. Then 20. Each one enormous, ancient, unstoppable. The Terran fleet stood ready. And yet, something more terrifying happened. The oldest ship of all, the Echion 01, a legend among humans, a myth among aliens, lit up with a pulse of blue light that reached all the way to the high command tower. Officers froze. The Echion had never awakened in their lifetimes. It was said to be too old, too powerful, too dangerous. But today it stirred. Slowly, mechanically, tragically, like a titan rising from the grave. The commander whispered, "Even the old ones are answering." A signal from Jupiter Station arrived. All outer defense fleets ready for launch. Another from Mars. Shock divisions fully armed. Another from Neptune Base. Silent wing squadrons awaiting orders. Earth, the silent world, the peaceful world, the underestimated world, was now fully awake. The commander raised his hand. "Send a message to the Varkan Dominion." Officers nodded. "What message, sir?" The commander looked at them with a gaze that felt older than the stars. "Tell them," he said, "we received their attack." He paused, letting the weight settle into the room like a final breath before a war begins. "Tell them we will return it." One by one, the Terran dreadnoughts began to rise from their docks, engines glowing like newborn suns, casting long shadows across Earth's oceans and cities. Civilians watched from windows and rooftops, silent, united, understanding without being told. This was not conquest. This was not revenge. This was justice shaped into steel. As the fleet began its journey toward the Varkan homeworld, one truth echoed across the galaxy with growing dread. Humanity had stopped asking for peace. Humanity had answered the call of war. And this time nothing would survive Earth's silence. Across the solar system, the awakening of the Terran fleet was not a simple military event. It felt like the heartbeat of an entire species rising at once, a deep thrum that moved from the cold metal of shipyards to the warm blood of every human alive. And as the orders for Red Horizon spread like fire through encrypted channels, humanity moved with a terrifying unity, a unity born not from commands but from instinct, grief, and a rage so quiet it shook the void itself. On Earth, civilians gathered on rooftops, balconies, and hilltops to watch the night sky flicker as massive engines ignited high above, lighting the darkness with streaks of blue flame. On the moon, the drydock plates peeled open like ancient gates, revealing titanic warships resting in long silent slumber, their hulls coated in dust and faded paint, their cores dormant for centuries, until now. And when the first spark of life surged through them, a low rumble rolled through lunar soil like a sleeping beast exhaling after ages of silence. The warship Soul's hammer rose first, towering like a floating mountain, its armored plates shifting with mechanical groans as systems rebooted after centuries, lights flickering in long dark corridors, weapons aligning with crisp metallic snaps, the ship breathing out a cloud of cold vapor as if shaking off the weight of a long-forgotten past. Then came the vigilant dawn, its engine glow illuminating the vast plain of the Mare Tranquillitatis, followed by Iron Seraph, Helion's Wrath, Stormfall, and dozens more, each one awakening with slow, heavy power, each one letting out a deep hum that vibrated through the moon's surface, reaching all the way to Earth's oceans. But none shook the galaxy like the awakening of the Echion 01. The legendary warship rested in deep orbit beyond Mars, trapped in a static cocoon of old Terran energy fields that marked it as forbidden, too dangerous, too advanced, too unpredictable for modern fleets to use. For centuries, engineers studied it from afar, never daring to reactivate its ancient core. But when Red Horizon activated, the Echion responded before any human touched a command. Its dark hull silent for 600 years, lit up with thin golden veins of energy that pulsed like a heartbeat beginning to return. One pulse, then another, then a flood. The ship awoke with a voice that echoed through the void like distant thunder. Deep, cold, alive. Echion 01 reactivate. Threat detected. Humanity endangered. Initiating war protocols. Satellites malfunctioned. Communications flickered. The Martian orbital rings trembled as the ancient ship unfolded its wings. Massive silver fins that glowed with immeasurable power, humming with the resonance of forgotten technology. Engineers across Mars stared with breathless awe, some crying, some whispering prayers, because the Echion did not simply awaken. It rose like a god returning to the battlefield. Inside the High Command war room, the commander watched the hologram feed of the fleet assembling, his jaw tightening as the scale of humanity's response became clear. Every dreadnought, every carrier, every hidden prototype, every dark project the public believed was a myth, all of them answering the same call. For the first time since the Old War centuries ago, the entire Terran fleet moved as one. The girl from Arion 5 watched from a medical station orbiting Earth, wrapped in blankets, eyes wide as she saw the giant ships rising. She understood little of war, but she understood something simple and powerful. Humans were coming. They were coming for her. They were coming for everyone lost on Arion 5. They were coming for every child who died without understanding why. And the thought brought tears to her eyes. Not of fear, but of safety. Of being avenged. Down on Earth, families held each other in silence as the night sky glowed brighter than any sunrise. And the news spread across every screen. Humanity responds. On other alien worlds, the reaction was far different. The Galactic Council watched nervously as reports of the Terran mobilization reached them. Some species trembled. Others accused Earth of preparing mass genocide. Others whispered that they always knew humans would show their true nature one day. But none of them understood. Humanity did not awaken to conquer. Humanity awakened because something precious was broken. Something fragile. Something they had protected fiercely, their peace. The Varkan Dominion, far across the galaxy, intercepted Terran signals. Their leaders laughed. Humans are loud, one Varkan commander sneered. But they are not strong. Nothing they have can challenge the Dominion. His second-in-command smirked. We burned their outpost. We crushed their colony. What can they possibly do? But even as they laughed, their scanners picked up something impossible, hundreds of human dreadnoughts breaking out of warp lanes. Hundreds more leaving the solar system. And in the center of them all, a massive energy signature unlike anything ever recorded. The Echion. The laughter stopped. The fear began. Back in human space, the Terran fleet formed a massive spear formation. Dreadnoughts at the front, carriers at the flanks, stealth destroyers cloaked behind them. The Echion took the lead position, its wings fully deployed, its core glowing with ancient power so intense that space distorted around it. Pilots inside their cockpits whispered to themselves, feeling something ancient settle into their bones. The knowledge that today they were not just flying ships. They were carrying justice. Justice for Arion 5. Justice for every life taken without reason. Justice for a child who survived when she should have died. The commander's voice echoed through the fleet-wide channel, calm and cold. This mission is not conquest. It is correction. He paused, letting the words settle into every heart. Today, humanity answers. Engines roared. Warp gates opened. Space bent. And the entire Terran fleet vanished into the darkness, leaving behind only streaks of blue light as they launched toward Varkan space at speeds that shattered every known limit. And in the silence that followed, galaxies whispered the same truth. Earth had stopped talking. Earth had started moving. And when Earth moves, worlds fall. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council chamber trembled with a panic it had not felt in centuries. Because never before had they seen a single species move with such perfect unity and terrifying silence. Never before had they seen a civilization respond to tragedy with this level of precision, purpose, and cold determination. And as the Terran fleet vanished into warp space, leaving trails of blue fire across the stars, the Council found itself swallowed by a growing fear of what humanity had become, fear of what humanity remembered, fear of what humanity was finally willing to show. Representatives from dozens of alien worlds shouted over each other, their voices cracking with terror as holographic screens displayed real-time images of Earth's fleet rising like an unstoppable storm. Some demanded immediate sanctions. Some begged for Earth to be stopped. Some insisted humans must be restrained for the sake of galactic stability. But beneath their loud speeches and trembling hands, one truth spread across the chamber like cold smoke. They had all underestimated Earth, mocked Earth, pushed Earth, believing the quiet species would always bend, always smile, always forgive, never understanding that forgiveness is only kindness, until someone destroys the reason for kindness to exist. The council elder slammed his staff against the floor, voice shaking. We must stop them. If humanity reaches the Varkan homeworld, there will be genocide. But the human ambassador, who had been silent through the chaos, lifted his head slowly, and the moment his calm, cold eyes rose, the chamber fell quiet in fear. He didn't shout. He didn't argue. He didn't try to justify anything. He simply said, "They attacked children." His voice was soft, almost too soft, but the softness made it even more terrifying than a scream. They burned families alive. They targeted civilians. And now you worry about violence. The elder swallowed hard. If Earth destroys the Varkan world, it will start a chain of retaliation. The ambassador cut him off, voice still quiet. No, it will end one. Those words hit the council like a blade. The ambassador stood slowly, the blue light of the chamber reflecting in his dark eyes. We came to this council seeking justice, he said. We asked for help. You refused. He stepped forward. We asked for support. You ignored us. Another step, We asked for accountability. You laughed. Delegates flinched as if struck. He pointed to the image of the Varkan emblem. You chose them. Now Earth chooses itself. Panic erupted again. We must block the Terran fleet. We must intercept. We must force negotiations. But another representative, a reptilian diplomat with trembling hands, whispered what everyone feared to admit. We cannot stop them. They disabled our border stations with a single ping. They bypassed our warp lanes. Our fleets refused to move. And it was true. Across multiple systems, Council fleets sent desperate messages. Terran ships are too fast, cannot intercept. Our weapons cannot target them. They fly through blockades as if we are invisible. The chamber shook as more reports arrived. The Varkan Dominion sent their own message. Angry, mocking, arrogant. Your human allies are nothing, their broadcast roared. We will crush them as we crushed their outpost. The room winced. The human ambassador did not blink. He simply whispered, I hope you cherish those words. They are the last your leaders will speak. A council member stood up, face pale. You do not understand. If Earth annihilates an entire homeworld, it will redefine the laws of war. It will destabilize the galaxy. The ambassador's voice hardened, the quiet turning razor sharp. The Varkan already redefined the rules when they slaughtered scientists and children without warning. When they bombed shelters. When they left a little girl bleeding in the ruins to die alone. His hands trembled, not in weakness, but in the kind of controlled rage that makes stars fear. You all ignored that. Silence. A suffocating silence. A silence filled with guilt, fear, shame, and something else, respect. Deep, painful respect. The ambassador turned away, staring at the hologram of the Terran fleet moving through space like a spear of light. Humanity asked you for peace, he said. But peace cannot exist where cruelty is rewarded. The council elder's voice cracked as he whispered, And what will exist after this? The ambassador breathed in deeply, eyes cold. Balance, he said. For the first time in a long time, the council chamber vibrated as a new message appeared. Terran High Command broadcasting across neutral space. The screen flickered, revealing the commander standing in front of the awakened Echion 01, its glowing wings stretching like a god behind him. To all galactic powers, the commander announced, voice deep and steady. Earth is on a mission of justice. Do not interfere. The chamber collectively leaned forward, breath frozen. If you block us, the commander continued, we will go through you. Gasps echoed through the room. He didn't blink, didn't soften. If you threaten us, we will end you. Delegates shook, horrified. And if you let us finish, his eyes narrowed. This war will end today. The broadcast turned off. No music, no intimidation, just truth. Pure, sharp, terrifying truth. The council elder sank into his chair, covering his face with trembling hands. Humanity has changed, he whispered. The human ambassador shook his head slowly. No, he said. Humanity finally remembered what it is capable of. And as the council stared at the glowing map of the Terran fleet closing in on Varkan space, they knew Earth wasn't marching to war. Earth was marching to deliver a message written in fire. Never hurt humans again. The galaxy trembled, and Earth kept moving. The moment the Terran fleet dropped out of warp near the Varkan homeworld, the stars themselves seemed to flinch, because the space around the planet twisted under the pressure of hundreds of human dreadnoughts arriving at once, their engines burning like artificial suns, their hulls shining with cold intention, and the silence that followed their arrival was so heavy it pressed against the minds of every living creature on the planet below. The Varkan Dominion had prepared for this moment. They sent thousands of their own warships into orbit, forming a thick metallic shell around their world, a wall of steel meant to intimidate and crush any invader. The Varkan admiral, proud and arrogant, stood aboard his flagship with a cruel smile, believing humans were nothing but fragile meat wrapped in metal, believing the destruction of Arion 5 would break Earth, believing no species would dare challenge the Dominion. But his smile faded the moment he saw the formation of the Terran fleet. Humans did not arrive scattered. They arrived as a blade. A single razor pointed directly at the Varkan throne. The Echion 01 drifted forward first, its colossal structure stretching wider than any Varkan battleship, its wings unfurling like a cosmic beast waking for the kill, its surface glowing with ancient runes that vibrated with power no modern species could replicate. The Varkan tried scanning it. The scanners died instantly. They tried locking weapons, weapon systems froze. They tried pinging communications, silence, then a soft hum that made their technicians bleed from their ears. Fear spread through the Varkan fleet like poison. "What is that thing?" one officer whispered, his voice shaking, but their admiral barked orders to fire. "Humans are nothing. Destroy them." Thousands of Varkan warships aimed their cannons, their massive railguns, their plasma lances, their antimatter torpedoes, filling space with glowing red dots as every weapon system locked on. For a moment, the universe held its breath. And then the admiral screamed the order, "Fire everything!" The Varkan sky exploded. Beams, missiles, bolts of plasma. All of it shot forward at once. A tidal wave of light and death. It should have torn the Terran fleet apart. It should have cracked ships, burned hulls, broken lines. But just before the weapons reached the human ships, the Echion's wings shifted. The air around it bent. Gravity folded. The weapons vanished. Not exploded. Not deflected. Vanished. Erased from reality like they were never fired. The Varkan crews stared in horror. "No, that's impossible. They're still coming. Why didn't it hit them? Why didn't anything hit them?" And the humans didn't fire back. Not yet. They simply kept moving forward, slow, deliberate, unstoppable. The human commander stepped into view on every Varkan screen, his face calm like a surgeon preparing to make a single clean cut. "This is Earth," he said. "You attacked civilians. You attacked children." His voice carried no anger, only truth. And truth was far more terrifying. "This is your answer." He lowered his hand. The Terran fleet opened fire. But the humans did not fire missiles. They did not fire torpedoes. They fired pure energy. A light so bright it turned space white. A beam so clean it sliced Varkan dreadnoughts in half without explosion, without flames, simply removing them from existence. Hundreds of Varkan ships vanished in seconds. Their admiral screamed orders, but no one could hear him. The comm channels filled with static, the screens filled with human ships cutting through the blockade like knives through paper. "Fall back!" someone yelled. "Retreat!" But even retreat was impossible. The Echion pulsed once, releasing a wave of silent blue energy that rolled across the battlefield like a ripple on a dark lake. Every enemy engine died. Every weapon locked. Every ship froze, drifting helplessly. The Varkan admiral stood trembling, watching the impossible unfold. His proud armada, the strongest in their region of the galaxy, was helpless in minutes, crushed not by brutality, but by elegance, precision, human efficiency. One young Varkan officer whispered, We attacked the wrong species." Then the humans moved in closer, their dreadnoughts surrounding the Varkan homeworld from every angle, forming a prison of metal and fire. Civilians on the planet looked up, seeing hundreds of massive shadows blocking their sun, a cold reminder that vengeance had come. And still, the humans did not fire on the world. Not yet. The commander broadcast one final message. "Surrender your emperor. Give justice to those you murdered. This is your last chance." The Varkan emperor appeared on the screen, laughing, arrogant even with death above him. "You don't have the courage," he spat. "Humans talk, but they don't kill worlds." The commander looked at him with dead, emotionless eyes. "We don't kill the innocent," he said. "But your planet is not innocent." He closed the channel gently. That made the Emperor's blood run cold. Then the Echion's wings folded inward. Light gathered at its core. Space trembled. The battle was over. Justice was coming. And for the first time in their history, the Varkan Dominion understood why the galaxy once feared the quiet ones from the blue world. Earth had come, and Earth would finish what was started. The silence before Earth's final decision was the kind of silence that made even space feel nervous. A deep, crushing quiet that settled over the Varkan homeworld as the Terran fleet surrounded it from every angle, hundreds of colossal human ships casting shadows over continents, oceans, cities, and military bases, turning daylight into a dim, trembling twilight, and below, billions of Varkan citizens stared at the sky with wide, shaking eyes, realizing too late that their leader's arrogance had summoned something far greater than war. They had summoned humanity's wrath, the kind that does not roar, does not shout, does not need to raise its voice because its silence carries the weight of absolute judgment. Inside the bridge of Echion 01, the human commander stood with his hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the hologram of the Varkan planet turning slowly in the center of the room, its surface glowing with heat signatures, its cities teeming with life, its defenses crippled and useless after the earlier assault. And yet despite the power surrounding him, there was no pride in his face, no satisfaction, only a deep sorrow mixed with iron resolve, the expression of someone who understood what must be done, even if it broke something inside him. Officers waited for his order, their hearts pounding, their minds full of the images of Arion 5. Burning domes, falling towers, children buried beneath rubble. The lone injured girl whispering her desperate message into a recorder. "You know what they did," the commander said quietly, his voice low, steady, heavy with emotion. "They did not attack soldiers. They did not target our fleets. They targeted families, scientists, civilians, children." The officers lowered their heads, jaws clenched, eyes burning with grief and fury. "If we do nothing," he continued, "they will do it again, to us, to others, to anyone they think is weak." His voice softened even more, barely above a whisper. "And we cannot allow that." Meanwhile, on the Varkan capital tower, the emperor paced with furious steps, shouting at his trembling advisors, demanding explanations for why his mighty fleets fell, why his weapons failed, why the humans had technology older and stronger than anything in their databases. "They cannot destroy us," he screamed. "They don't have the courage." But even his loyal guards avoided his eyes, because far above them, the Echion's core brightened with a soft blue glow, like the first light of a dawn that promised death instead of warmth. Back in the Terran fleet, a broadcast flickered to life. Images of the little girl from Arion 5, lying in her medical bed, wrapped in blankets, sleeping with a soft rise and fall of her chest, unaware of the storm she had survived. The commander looked at the footage for a long moment, his expression tightening, his decision solidifying like stone beneath pressure. "Prepare the Worldbreaker array," he said at last. Those words hit the bridge like a physical shock. Some officers inhaled sharply, some clenched their fists, some closed their eyes, but none protested. The array was humanity's most powerful weapon, the one beam capable of breaking a planet's crust, boiling oceans, turning continents into dust. A weapon never used before. A weapon created for one purpose, to end a threat so completely it could never rise again. Across the fleet, dreadnoughts shifted into formation. The Echion moved to the front, wings spreading slowly, its core humming with energy so ancient it made the very air inside the bridge vibrate. Yet humanity did something no other empire ever had, something that showed why humans were feared and respected in equal measure. They gave one last chance. The commander opened a channel to the Varkan emperor, his face cold, calm, unreadable. "Surrender," he said quietly. "Give yourself to justice. Take responsibility. Spare your people." The emperor laughed, a twisted, ugly, arrogant sound. "You humans are weak," he spat. "You pretend to be strong, but you don't have the will to kill a world. You won't do it. You're too soft." The commander did not reply. He did not blink. He simply ended the transmission, turning away with a face that looked older than his years. "Begin final countdown," he whispered. The Echion responded immediately. Space around the ship darkened as energy gathered between its wings, swirling into a single point of pure, blinding white light, a creation of human engineering and ancient fear. A weapon designed not for domination but for the moments when mercy was no longer an option. Below, the Varkan citizens screamed and ran as the sky grew brighter and brighter, the clouds folding back, the atmosphere trembling under the weight of something it had never felt, a godlike judgment descending. The commander closed his eyes for one moment, just one, letting the pain wash over him, remembering the voices of Arion 5, the laughter of its families, the peaceful research towers shining under blue skies, the small girl crawling through ash. Then he opened his eyes, and humanity unleashed its answer. The light fell, silent, clean, absolute. There was no explosion, just a wave of brightness that swept across the Varkan surface, erasing cities, armies, palaces, mountains, oceans, until nothing remained but silence. A silence deeper than space. A silence that spoke louder than any warning. The Varkan homeworld was gone, and the galaxy felt the shift like a cold wind blowing across every star. Earth had acted. Earth had decided. Earth had shown what happens when you attack the quiet ones. Humanity did not shout. Humanity did not roar. Humanity whispered. The moment the Varkan homeworld went silent, that terrible, absolute silence rippled outward like a shockwave through the galaxy, passing through star systems, drifting across trade routes, echoing inside the hearts of every species that once believed humanity was harmless, peaceful, soft. A species that could be pushed, mocked, ignored, controlled. But now the universe watched with wide, trembling eyes as the impossible truth burned itself into history. Earth had destroyed a world not out of hunger, not out of greed, not for expansion, but because someone hurt their people, someone targeted their children, someone tried to break the one thing humans cherished above all else. Safety. Across thousands of planets, screens flickered with emergency broadcasts showing the Varkan system, where a thriving, arrogant empire once stood, now replaced with a dim sphere of dust and fading heat signatures. A scar in space so raw and violent that even seasoned war veterans felt their chests tighten when they saw it. And as the news spread, the galaxy fell into two emotions: terror and respect. In the council chamber, delegates who once shouted over humanity now sat frozen, pale, unable to lift their heads as a hologram of the destroyed world spun slowly before them. Its surface cracked, melted, turned into silence, and even those who despised Earth felt their anger turn into a hollow ache, because they knew, if humanity chose vengeance again, nothing would survive. The council elder, usually proud and loud, sat slumped in his seat, shaking as he whispered, They wiped out an entire world in minutes. But beside him, an older diplomat closed his eyes and said, voice trembling, and they did it only after giving a chance to surrender. Imagine what they would do without mercy. Species who once mocked humans now recalled every insult, every slight, every treaty they pressured Earth into signing, and fear crawled under their skin like ice. Ships across the galaxy paused their travel. Pirate groups shut down operations. Even the most powerful empires hesitated, their leaders whispering among themselves, Do not anger the Terrans. Do not touch their colonies. Do not even breathe near their borders. Humanity had changed the rules. But back inside the Terran fleet, the atmosphere was nothing like the galaxy imagined. There was no celebration, no cheering, no pride, no joy in vengeance. Only heavy silence, a silence that clung to the soldiers like grief soaked in steel, because even if they believed they had done what was necessary, none of them could escape the image of the little girl from Arion 5, the memory of her shaking voice, the ruins of her home, the tiny wounded body that should have never had to survive hell. Some officers stared out the windows with tears in their eyes. Some rested their heads against cold metal walls, their breath shivering. Because humans never wanted to destroy. They wanted to protect. They wanted peace. They wanted a future where no child cried into a recorder begging for help. And yet they were forced to become something terrifying, just to make the galaxy listen. In the heart of Echion 01, the commander walked slowly across the silent bridge, his boots echoing softly on the metal floor, his eyes moving over every officer who stood with bowed heads, none daring to lift their gaze because they too carried the weight of their actions. And when he reached the center console, he placed a trembling hand on the railing, whispering to himself, I hope this was enough. I hope they understand now. I hope this never happens again. His voice cracked, the guilt heavy even after justice had been delivered. Outside the window, The dust of the Varkan homeworld drifted through space like distant ash, gleaming under starlight, a reminder of the cost of underestimating the quiet species from the blue planet. On the medical ship far behind the fleet, the little girl from Arion 5 opened her eyes, confused, tired, afraid, and a nurse explained gently what happened, that the people who hurt her home would never hurt anyone again. The girl didn't speak for a long moment. Then she whispered, "Did my family see it?" It broke everyone in the room. A doctor knelt beside her and whispered, voice soft and shaking, "They know you're safe. That's what matters." And the child, still broken, still healing, still carrying the weight of loss no child should ever bear, closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you, Earth." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, alien governments held emergency meetings, rewriting their policies overnight. Border patrols were redirected away from Terran space. Criminal groups deleted human trade routes from their maps. Some empires even ordered their citizens never to insult humans, fearing even the smallest disrespect could awaken the storm again. No one laughed at humanity now. No one doubted humanity now. No one dared provoke humanity now. The Varkan Dominion had been erased in an hour, a warning written across the stars. And as the Terran fleet began turning back toward home, engines humming softly like a weary beast retreating after a brutal fight, the galaxy whispered one truth with cold certainty. Humanity had not just defended themselves, they had reshaped the balance of power forever. Earth had spoken, and every world trembled at the sound as the Terran fleet began its slow return journey toward human space. The galaxy remained frozen in a strange, breathless quiet, a silence too deep and too heavy to be called peace. A silence born from fear, awe, guilt, and a new understanding of the species they had all underestimated. And across countless worlds, screens replayed the aftermath of the Varkan destruction, the dust cloud drifting where a proud empire once stood, a warning carved into the stars themselves, and for the first time in history, no one dared whisper that humans were weak. The Council sent message after message begging Earth to attend an emergency summit, not with threats, not with demands, but with trembling voices filled with apology and desperation. But the Terran High Command did not respond immediately because Earth was focused on something far more important: bringing the survivors of Arion 5 home. The little girl who had triggered the entire chain of events was transported to Earth under heavy escort, not because she was in danger but because humanity treated her as if she carried the soul of the outpost with her, a symbol of everything that had been lost and everything that had been avenged. And when her shuttle landed, crowds gathered in silence, not cheering, not shouting, only placing flowers along the path in her honor. The commander who ordered the strike walked beside her slowly, his head lowered, feeling the weight of every life ended in the name of justice. He returned to high command to find hundreds of officers standing in the hallways, not in celebration but in quiet respect, their eyes reflecting the same truth. Humans did not enjoy what they had done, but they would never regret protecting their own. That same day, Earth finally answered the Council's calls, sending a single message that spread across the galactic network like a cold wind blowing through political halls. Humanity is open for peace, but peace must be equal. The Council chamber, filled with species that once mocked humanity, now listened in respectful silence as the human ambassador addressed them through hologram. His voice calm, steady, carrying the sharp edge of a promise forged in fire. "We did not destroy a world to show strength," he said. "We destroyed it to stop cruelty. We will never start war, but if war comes to us, we will finish it. We ask for nothing but respect." His gaze swept across the delegates, making even the bravest flinch. "If you touch humanity again, if you strike our colonies, our families, our children, Earth will respond with the same silence you witnessed in the Varkan skies." And then he said the words that the galaxy would remember for generations. "Do not mistake our kindness for weakness ever again." Across the galaxy, empires rewrote laws in a single night, declaring human borders untouchable, human ships untargetable, human civilians protected by interstellar agreement, and even the most aggressive species quietly adjusted their military doctrines, adding a line in bold red text: "Never provoke the Terrans." Pirate groups abandoned human regions entirely. Slave empires released their human captives out of pure fear. Diplomatic envoys began arriving at Earth, offering alliances, treaties, trade deals, all delivered with bowed heads and trembling voices. Humanity had not just avenged Arion 5, they had reshaped the galaxy's balance of power, forcing every species to treat them as equals or face consequences too catastrophic to risk. Meanwhile, far from the political noise, the Terran fleet slowed its engines as the blue glow of Earth came into view, wrapping the horizon like a comforting memory. Soldiers who had remained stone-faced throughout the operation finally allowed themselves to breathe again, some letting tears fall, others resting their foreheads against their consoles as they processed everything they had done, everything they had witnessed. When the ships descended back toward Earth's orbit, billions watched from screens and rooftops, their hearts swelling with pride, grief, and relief. They welcomed their fleet not as conquerors, not as heroes of destruction, but as protectors who had done something terrible so no one else would ever dare hurt humanity again. And then something happened that even Earth did not expect. The little girl from Arion 5, now healing, now surrounded by care and love, recorded a message of her own, her voice soft, fragile, still cracked from trauma, but full of a strength no one could teach. "Thank you," she whispered, "not for destroying them, but for coming for me, for not leaving me alone." That message spread across human networks, then leaked into alien channels, where billions of non-humans watched a small girl with bandages and bruises whisper gratitude not for vengeance, but for being saved, and something shifted inside the galaxy's heart. A realization that humanity did not fight for dominance, did not strike for glory, did not burn worlds for pride. Humanity fought for each other. Humanity fought for the smallest, weakest voice. Humanity fought because they could not bear to lose even one child. That truth frightened the galaxy more than the Echion ever could. It also earned something new: respect. True respect. Fearful respect. Unbreakable respect. And as the Terran fleet docked, engines cooling, hulls glowing under the sun, the galaxy wrote a new law in its collective memory. Strike a human outpost, and Earth will silence your entire world. In the quiet that followed, as Earth settled back into its orbit, as nations mourned Arion 5 while rebuilding hope, one final truth crystallized across the stars. Human beings were not the weak ones. They were the quiet ones, the patient ones, the peaceful ones. But when forced to rise, when pushed into the fire, when made to defend what mattered, humanity became something the galaxy could never defeat. And now, the galaxy would never forget.